to all of the viewers. So for this session in this video lecture, so we're gonna learn and discover about what is anthropometry and ergonomics. So the lecture gonna be divided into 4 topics, including the first one, we're gonna discover on what is the definition and the backgrounds of the anthropometry, followed by what is the ergonomics in the topic number 2, and then in the topic number 3 we're gonna discover what is the universal standard for the human measurement, and the last one we're gonna discover on what is the user-centered approach that we might integrate in our design. So we move to the first topic, which is anthropometry. So anthropometry is derived from the 2 Greek words, which is the first one is anthropro, which is its mean human. So and then the second term is metrikos. So it's pertaining to the measurement or the process of measuring. So literally, the definition of the anthropometry, we can call that as the process of measuring humans. So literally, anthropometry is the branch of the human science that deal with the body measurements, particularly with the measurement of body size, shape, strength, mobility and flexibility, and working capacity. So we can say that it's involved a systematic measurement of the physical properties of the human body, especially the dimension of the size and the shape of the human body. So anthropometry itself, it does have 2 types, which is the first one is the static anthropometry and the second one is functional anthropometry. So static anthropometry is a body size measurement carried out when the condition of human body is at rest or in a static state. So contrary, for the functional anthropometry, is a measurement of the human motion related to the completion of tasks, moves, and matters related to the use of space and equipment. So what is anthropometry in architectural design? So anthropometric measurements play a critical role in optimizing the design of the space. So the basic principle of anthropometry is that the building space or the building design must be appropriately adapted to the dimensions of the human body and human motion. It's rather than the people themselves have to adapt to fit the design of the building or the space. So if that happens, we can consider that as an unworkable space, or the worst, it might be justified as a failure in design. So that's why it is crucial for you to critically integrate the anthropometric data as an input in the design process. So as you can see here, this is the quote from the Keqing books. So what he said that there are predicates on the theory that forms and space in architecture are either containers or the extensions of the human body and should therefore be determined by its dimension. So by refer to the Keqing statements, again, either the space design accordingly serve the physical human needs, or maybe it just metaphorically considered as an empty container that doesn't serve any purpose in relate to the physical human need. So the space design that are in proportionate with the human anthropometric lead to the development of ergonomic design. So this is an example of the basic human anthropometry measurement. So what you have to do, you have to sketch and then you have to draw the human figure with the specific dimension and measurement. So this is an example sketches by Bill Stumpf that show his desire to design a chair that works for all kinds of bodies. So as you can see on the top right, so there are various sizes of the human body, and then how he gonna fit that into one single chair. So we move to the second part, which is ergonomics. So it's derived from two Greek words similar with the anthropometric, okay, but the terminology is coming from the ergos, that's mean work, and then nomos, that's mean natural law. Natural law. So as a definition of the ergonomics words, it is the study of human beings in their working environment. So the ergonomic approach to design may be summarized in the principle of user-centered design. So, which is if an object, a system, or an environment, so which is in our case is spaces design, so is intended for human use, then design should be based upon the physical and mental characteristics of each human's user. So we're gonna relate back to what kind of the space that we're gonna design. So who is the end user of the space? So in other words, there are triangulation relationship in between the product, which is in our case we can call that as a space, and then the second one is the user, which is the human who gonna be the end user, and then the third one is the task or activities that they're gonna execute into their own personal space that we design. So, and then there are certain criteria in defining ergonomics approach, which is the first one is functional efficiency. So, which is it does serve the purpose of the design. So, it has to be function. So, if not, the design gonna be unworkable, or we can call that as a failure in design. So, and then the second one is ease of use, which is the human will be easily to adapt into that environment or into that product for the product design or into that particular space. And then the third one is comfortability, comfort. And then follows by the health and safety. Of course, we have to consider that criteria. And then the last one is the quality to the end user of that particular space or products and so on. So most of the times, the ergonomic approach are strongly associated with the working environment. For example, the working environment in the office or the working environment in the factory. So it depends. So this is an example of the ergonomics diagrammatic. So as you can see, there's a human figure with their motion, either they are in the static or either they are in functional anthropometric, plus their placement in the place or on the products, on the chair, for example, or in the space. So as you can see in the left part, this is one lady's in the kitchen. How she gonna climb to that cabinet at the top? So in this particular scenario, so it's something like the human itself have to adapt to that particular space. So it's not easy for her maybe to climb over the chair. So this is the thing that we might consider. And then this is the diagram or the study of the ergonomics did by Le Corbusier, one of the legendary architects. So as you can see from left to the right, from how that figure, that people sit from that height, and then up to the right one, how he stand, and then while lifting his hand to the top. And then this is another example, ergonomic studies on two different sitting activities, which is the left one is the sitting for drive in the car for the mechanical design. So, and then the right one is the sitting for working in the office. So as you can see, for example, in the left one, the sitting inside the car for driving is not as simple as you think. So you have to consider the visibility angle of your eyes. is that the steering gonna block your view, and then you have to consider the placement of the leg, the posture of your back. So is that gonna be comfortable for the long journey? So and then maybe you might experience that if you sit inside the SUV, for example, that's slightly higher compared to the sedan car. So some of the people might comfortable to sit in the sedan car because of the low gravity. So on the other side, some of the people love to sit on the higher car for SUV. So because it does give different kind of the perception and experience. So and then we move to the next part, which is the universal standard. So which is the universal standard of human measurement. It can be considered derived from man. So as in there are lineage of studies on the human proportion started by Alberti, Michelangelo, Da Vinci, and those of the scholar in the Renaissance period. So if you refer back to the history, so what happened in the Renaissance periods when they move over from the previous period, that all of the knowledge has been contained. So but this is you may read that in your history class. Okay, so as in the work of the Dürer, so this is after Michelangelo, Da Vinci. So the most significant studies on the human proportion or human measurement is done by the Dürer. So as in the work of the Dürer, the calculation for a man's body based on the length of heads, face, or feet. So it then becomes as a common standard of universal human measurement. So as you can see in this diagram, so this is one man. So as you can see, circular here. So how that hand gonna be moved? So what is the maximum reach of that hand? So what's the motion, possible motion by this man? Okay. So this is the man dimension and space requirements or body measurement. So this is I extract from the architect data Newford. So how that the man crawl, sitting, standing, bend his body. So all of this movement, it does have specific measurement. So if you're gonna design the space, so you have to consider this kind of the measurement as part or the input of your design. And then even though they are so-called the universal design or universal basic human measurement, but we might consider the discourse by the ergonomist designer, so which is in a way to achieve the design that suit the end user. So there are 5 fundamental fallacies or misconception in ergonomic design, which is the first one, this design is satisfactory for me as a designer, so it will therefore be satisfactory for everybody else. So this is what happens when you use your intuitive rather than using the data in a way to creating or proceed the design. So and then the point number 2, this design is satisfactory for the average person, so it will therefore be satisfactory for everybody else. So in this case, so you're not considering the variability of the human beings. So because they are variable human beings, and then they are variable in size, and then they are variable in preference of every human. So and then the third one, the variability of a human being is so great that it cannot possibly be catered for in any design. But since people are wonderfully adaptable, it doesn't matter anyway. So for this point, we might refer back to what De Kaching quoted as we discussed before. So at the space design gonna be the container, which is the human have to adapt in that particular space, or either the space is designed by the extension of the human needs, human measurement, human interferometrics. Okay. So and then the point number 4, which is the ergonomics is expensive. So and since products are actually purchased on appearance and styling, ergonomic consideration may conveniently be ignored. So again, so not all of the human or people prefer just on the outlook of the design, but the most important thing is the workability of the design. For example, the chair, for example. So maybe they are nice or they are beautiful. They're carrying some principle in the outlook of the design, but is that gonna works when you sit on that chair? So it have to be considered. So and then the number 5, ergonomics is an excellent idea. So I always design things with ergonomics in mind, but I do it intuitively and rely on my common sense, so I don't need tables of data or empirical studies. So again, it's reflect back the point number 1, which is when you design by using your intuitive, your own common sense. But outside there, not a lot of people gonna be agree with your intuitive. So that's why the data is important as a part of your design. So this is the variability of human beings. So and then the first one, variation between individual. Of course, if you're looking into your friend at your side, so maybe your friend is slightly taller than you, or maybe you are slightly bigger than your friends. So from that sense, it's already have variations in size. And then variation between racial groups. So as we know that some of the races, they have the genetic that most of the people from that particular races are coming with the huge body, taller. For example, you can see in your class member, Basit, for example, is slightly taller than you, which is he's from Middle East. And then the third one is variation in gender. So men and women. So commonly we see that the ladies or the woman is slightly lower than the guy, than the man. Okay, and then variation in age. So when you are still kids, you are slightly smaller than your parents, which is adult. So by this variability of human beings, so it comes with the variation of the size. So that's why it's important for you to do the study on the human measurement or on the interferometry for the end user of your design. And then we move to the last part, which is the user-centered approach, which is the process in a way to achieve the user-centered approach. Which is the first one, you have to do the task analysis and then follows by user trial. So for the task analysis, it involves the formal or semi-formal attempt to define and state what the user is actually going to do with the space or with the environment. So this is what we can call as your study in a way to extract the data of who is your end user of your design. For example, in your case, you're gonna design the mobile shelter for the homeless people. So who gonna be the end user? So what they actually do inside their shelter? So this is the thing that you have to obtain. And then the user trial, which is the an experimental investigation in which a sample of a people test a prototype version of the products under control conditions. So when you have design, so of course you have to do the trial. So is that fit enough for the end user? So is that going to be too big or is it going to be too small? So this is the importance of the trial for your products or for your designs. So I guess that's all for this session.